Well, hello there, everyone. With Yoshi and the Mysterious Books release set for right around the corner, I decided to revisit my personal favorite Yoshi game, Yoshi's Woolly World. And upon replay, I still very much love this game with its creative levels, pleasant music, and beautiful art style. But it's also got some really creative bosses, and hey, this is a boss-focused YouTube channel, so what better time than now to rank them from worst to best? You know the drill, I don't see the need to keep on stalling, let's dive on in, shall we? Number 14, Big Montgomery Round 2. There's not too many fights in this game I actively dislike or would consider bad, and technically this is more involved of a boss than something like number 13 on the list, but it's not better by much. All you do in this fight is hit Big Montgomery with an egg to knock him off his tower, then ground pound him and repeat this 3 times. It's the exact same gimmick used by the World 1 boss, but this is a boss fight in World 3, so it's not getting the same goodwill. Also, this fight gave me an unfortunate realization that the mid-bosses weren't going to be unique opponents. In fact, of this game's 14 bosses, 2 of them get rematched 3 times and 1 of them gets battled twice. There are enough changes between the fights that they do feel different enough in like actual proper boss fights, but it was a little unfortunate saying, oh, we're gonna have a lot of reused characters and music. Number 13, Bert the Bashful. Bert the Bashful is more or less the same as Big Montgomery Round 2, of a boss who gets on a totem pole with minions and must be knocked off then hit 3 times to win. It's an extremely straightforward and basic boss battle, but Bert gets a very slight pass for taking place in World 1 instead of World 3, and his boss music is considerably better, so he squeezes out a few extra bonus points, but ultimately, if you come in here with 3 eggs before the fight begins, which isn't even hard to do, then you just skip the entire battle, which is kind of unfortunate for a world boss. Number 12, Notwing the Koopa. Notwing the Koopa is a more involved battle than the first fight with Big Montgomery, but this is another boss that doesn't really have a lot going on for him, and it's pretty easy to skip. It really is just a case of, he does a slam, attack him. So, you hit him, and then he spins around, now he slams multiple times. Then you hit him, he spins around, now he slams even more. And you get the idea. It's not offensive or anything, and as a mid-boss for World 2, I'd say it's fairly appropriate for its placing. However, it's a pretty repetitive battle, and it's not helped by having, in my opinion, the worst boss theme in the game by far. It starts out fine, but it's such a short loop and the higher pitched instrumentation can get irritating very, very quickly. Number 11, Big Montgomery Round 1. And the first boss of the game is very basic, just running around and jumping for a lot of the fight, and you don't even need X to beat him, just jump on him, then ground pound his exposed weak point to win. But, as the first boss in the game, he does a solid job selling the game's concept as a whole, with the yarn aesthetic on top of him having a pretty cool attack where he's able to go into the background and pops out from behind the curtain, and while I don't think his boss theme is amazing, it's a solid enough piano track that works to show the foe is slightly dangerous, but still has an air of playfulness to everything. Not amazing, but a respectable enough introductory battle, and I don't have any sort of issues with it. Number 10, Miss Cluck the Insincere. Now, that is a fun name to say, but with this boss capping off World 3, we've seen basically every opponent from the first half of the game. The bosses definitely see a large uptick in quality in the game's latter half. Anyways, Miss Cluck seems like she's going to be a pretty involved boss fight, with her quicker movements and really good boss music going for this more big bands vibe. However, something I'm kind of mixed on is her phase 2 and 3 attacks. They play a bit more with her being a bird, and the idea of her charging at different elevations is quite cool in my opinion. However, the fight stumbles due to an odd weakness. Hitting her with an egg resets her AI, where instead of going to perform an attack, she'll just go back to flying harmlessly over you, giving you another chance to hit her, which is pretty cool as a speedrun technique, but for the average person, it takes the wind out of the fight with a single leg. Your primary attack method of the game, mind you. It's enough to just reset and loop her AI again and again, so you never really see any of her cool attacks. Assuming you don't do that though, the boss is relatively fun to go through, but its AI looping issue is, well, a bit tricky to grade, and it's one thing that I've kind of stumbled into on accident, so it's not something that you're going to have to go out of your way to do because it's a Yoshi game. You throw eggs at your enemies. Number 9, Naval Piranha. I love the Easter egg that you can hit him at the start of the fight. Anyways, Naval Piranha is immune to your egg attacks and will do everything he can to gobble you up, but his crew of Shy Guys will attempt to help him in battle by throwing out bombs, but they're actually giving you the very tools to defeat him. It's kind of like an inverse of the usual trope on this boss would be invincible if they didn't do this one thing, because technically, the boss isn't doing anything wrong, it's his minions that give you the ammunition to beat him, and they're still trying to help you, or help him beat you, which is kind of funny. Regardless, he still does a solid job providing a decent enough challenge for the player, needing to line up the throws into his mouth to leave him vulnerable to damage. Throwing a bomb into the giant monster when they're trying to eat you is pretty standard at this point, but hey, it's a classic Nintendo formula for a reason, and that's because it works. Number 8, Notwing the Koopa Round 2. Notwing may be fought 3 times in the game, and have kind of annoying boss music, but at least his fights improve each time around. He doesn't have the same weakness as his first battle, where you could rip his wings off and stun him, and instead his weakness is being mortal and not enjoying getting stabbed by spike traps in the water. It's a bit more creative, as it has you interacting with the arena differently, especially with his face transitions where he sends out a bunch of waves that need to be avoided. And with the one rotten exception of Big Montgomery Round 2, I honestly don't mind those boss rematches in this game because they all do something to stand out. So they're less rehashed fights and more like new fights with recurring characters, which I'm okay with, even if I wish Notwing had better boss music or that they each got new boss themes for each fight, which I wouldn't even really mind too much if it wasn't for the fact that this game kind of introduced bosses having their own themes. Number 7, Sniffberg the Unfeeling. Speaking of boss music, this guy's boss theme sounds like something straight out of Devil May Cry 3 or 4. Now, as the boss is at the end of the second to last world of the game, Sniffberg is able to put up more of a challenge with him being able to crush you, call in spike balls from the background, and create ice chunks of various heights, acting as walls that need to be jumped over, or requiring 3 eggs to hit him to actually knock him off balance to leave him vulnerable, making things a bit tighter because while he always spawns enemies in 3s, you can't just spam to win against this boss, you need 3 clean hits, and you need to get him next to a ledge. The boss has cool music, great attacks, and a natural escalation of challenge as the battle goes on, making for a pretty fun time, I'd have to say, and it's fitting of the second to last world boss in the game. Number 6, Kamek. Kamek is more of a level than a proper boss, but hey, it's my video and I can count it if I want to, damn it. It's a fun challenge, though, as the second to last level of the game, there's not a whole lot of floor, and while the likes of Fall Into a Bit No Problem can trivialize things, it still has some tricks up its sleeve, like using enemies as the main platforms of the level, and Kamek repeatedly performing flybys to take you out, which I respect. And there's an extra layer of challenge added to the mission, and between the music and dark skies, this level really does have a nice sense of
good atmosphere.
Number 5, Big Montgomery Round 3. Big Montgomery returns for one last battle in World 5, and it's the most creative of them all, but it's also the most thematically unrelated. Now he fights you by staying beneath the floor and raising up ice, which you need to crush under him and not get smashed into the ceiling by him whenever he tries to shoot you up into the ceiling. And between the phases, he'll command his soldiers to start turning into snowballs, along with him becoming a big snowball as they roll down the hill. It does a great job having him as a sort of commander, and while the fight is pretty brief and pretty easy, it's a nice final battle, though it definitely feels like it could have had an original boss here instead of Big Montgomery's model, but once again, I won't hold that against the game or this boss fight. Number 4, Notwing Round 3. The final battle with Notwing, and one that you might like a lot less if you don't have the Fall Into a Pit No Problem power-up, but as the last mini-boss of the game, it does bring some challenge with him firing bullet bills of both the regular and homing variety, while also incorporating his dive bombs and some ascension attacks into his moveset. And this time, Notwing is basically invincible. However, his cannon is not and will be able to get clogged up, which will explode, leading him wide open to getting hit by a ground pound. It's a fun and hectic challenge for the endgame. I just kind of wish he once again had better boss music because, again, Notwing has the most annoying theme in the game, And otherwise, this fight is actually pretty cool and has a lot of good stuff going on here. Number 3, Bunsen the Hot Dog. Some may have noticed there was one early game boss that had not been present throughout the ranking, and that's because he belongs here. Bunsen is a fun boss to cap off World 2 and a decent step up in challenge over the baby mode opponents so far. A giant fire-breathing dog that requires you to clamp his mouth shut so his flames backfire on him is a bit tougher than earlier foes and requires some level of precision, as you need to hit his head, which, while it is super easy when he's on the ground, it does get a little bit tougher when he starts climbing the walls, and his attacks actually make use of him going into the background. The fight's fun, it's a little bit faster paced than average, and it feels more dynamic than the other early game foes, and a large part of that is also owed to his boss music because, I mean, who doesn't love a good bass-heavy boss theme? The fight's overall just one I enjoy a lot, and I kinda wish that we had more boss fights that maybe got a little bit harder like this guy did. Number 2, Naval Piranha's Revenge. Is this cheating? Maybe. Do I care? Not in the slightest. World 4's extra stage is sort of a rematch with the main boss of the, world, with it being a level titled This Time It's Personal. The boss fight is being chased by a giant scary monster type of level, so you have to keep on the move or you will die, no ifs, ands, or buts. But you know what, I'm okay with that. It's a very fun level and one of the hardest in the game, fitting for its optional nature. The only real nitpick I have is I don't think the athletic theme really fits this level. I mean, I get it, it does fit the special stages as a whole, but I think it would have served better to have his boss theme play here. I love the extra stage theme song, but it's too bright and cheerful for being chased down by an enraged killer plant that wants to devour you whole. Overall though, it's a very fun example of a chaser boss, and it's a completely different challenge from the main story boss fight, which I enjoy. Number 1, Baby Bowser. There's honestly not really a clear front runner for the best boss fight in this game, and the final boss may be number 1, but he's not some clear unmatched far and away best fight in the game. It's just the most complete battle and the longest one. Sometimes in these games, the Baby Bowser fight is a complete joke, but that's actually not the case here, as it may be simple to hit him with an egg and ground pound, but getting the ammo to do so isn't as easy to obtain as you may think, and while his first hit is a freebie, it becomes a lot more dangerous when he starts combining his attacks with Kamek, who actually joins in on this boss fight. Not to say this phase is super hard, but it's no pushover like some iterations of the boss fight have been, and the orchestral music is actually pretty good here. However, this is the Yoshi game, so we have to have an obligatory phase 2 against Baby Bowser where he becomes gigantic, and it's not bad. It doesn't have the epic music or how the hell did they manage this on this system factor that the final boss from the original Yoshi's Island had, but it's a bit more complex. Baby Bowser is immune to all attacks, and instead the dark spools are what must be hit. And you need to use the giant yarn balls for ammunition, and there's giant springs that allow you to get around the arena much quicker. But he has a decent array of fire attacks, and his jumps also reverse the way the yarn balls are facing as well as the launch pad direction, which adds a little wrinkle of complexity. You can burn this phase down super quickly, and he is able to, be easily trivialized if you know exactly what you're doing, but otherwise, it's actually pretty fun and a little bit dangerous. And then as he gets to half health, he starts knocking down the arena, making things more treacherous while turning the arena into yarn balls, which initially doesn't seem like much, but then you realize, oh, he's essentially creating bottomless pits when he knocks them out. Plus, while the music isn't some amazing rock song that pushes the Super Nintendo to its limit, it's a solid final boss theme. Overall, I wouldn't say the bosses are necessarily the highlight of Yoshi's Woolly World, but there's a fair bit of creativity found in these battles, and they do a great job with the art style. And that's going to do it for this video, everyone. Yoshi's Woolly World was fun to revisit. It's got some amazing levels and some pretty solid bosses, and I'm hoping Mysterious Book is able to also have some pretty good stuff in there as well. If y'all want me to make a video on that one when it comes out, let me know. Now, it probably won't be till after I get moved into my new apartment, but hey, I'm open to it as long as the game's actually fun. Anyways, that's all I've got for this video. If you want to see more content of varying quality, consider liking, subscribing, and hyping the video, and I will see you all next time. Until then, take care.